All right, so what I want to do now is talk a little bit about the conditional operator in JavaScript. This is a shorter way to write basically if-else statements. There are certain situations where you'll want to use this. So let's start off with a simple little example, and I'll show you how to do this with the if-else statements, the switch statement, and then the conditional operator. So let's do something like const. We'll do first name, and let's set this equal to John. And let's do const age. Let's set this equal to 19. Let's log a little message to the console with whether or not this person can vote. So let me start with my if statement. Forgot about that. So if I'll say the age is greater than or equal to, let's go 18. So in most countries, you can vote if you're 18. So I'll go console.log. I'll use some backticks and I'll reference the first name variable. And I'll say can vote, okay? And let me put an exclamation point there and a little emoji, okay, a ballot box. And let's do a little else, okay? And let me get rid of this. We'll cut this out, paste this in, and clean that up. And let's come over here. We'll do the same thing. So I'm gonna use some backticks. I'll use my first name variable and say can't vote, okay? And now let's do a little annoyed emoji. So let's put that guy in there, okay? And let's go ahead and pop open the terminal and let's run this guy. And we get John can vote, okay, as expected. You can play around with this. You can put this to, let's say 14, and let's clear this and run this. We get John can't vote. Okay, so that's as expected. If we go ahead and look at the switch statement, most of you will remember this. You can just go switch, okay? And then what I actually want to type in here is a bit strange at first, but you just want to type in true, okay? So what I'm going to do inside of this block, I'm going to type case. And then basically here, I want to just say, is the age greater than or equal to 18? So is the age greater than or equal to 18? So this right here is either going to be true or false. If it's true, you'll have a match. If it's false, you won't. So I want to put what I want to do here. So rather than typing this again, let me just grab this and let's paste that in. And let's do our break. Don't forget about your break. And then let me do the default. And in this case, let me go ahead and grab this guy right here. Okay, come back down and let's go ahead and tab this over and let's put the break in there as well. Again, that's a good practice to do that. So if I pop this open, you're going to get the same thing twice. You see John can't vote twice. Okay. Again, if you come back up here and you change this to something like, let's say 22, well, now you're going to get John can vote twice. Okay. It's just a different way to do the same thing. All right. So let's now talk about the conditional operator. And I'm just going to look at the MDN page with you really quickly. Again, I'm going to link all this in the description. So basically, the conditional operator is the only JavaScript operator that takes 3 operands. So you have your condition followed by a question mark. So that's how I remember. It's like I'm asking a question. Then an expression to execute if the condition is truthy, followed by your colon. Okay, and finally the expression to execute if the condition is falsy. So it's just like a shortcut for the if-else statements that we've been working with. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to first ask, is the age greater than or equal to 18? Okay, so this is the condition I want to check. If it's true, what do I want to do? So put the question mark. What do I want to do? Put that after the question mark. So in this case, I got to come back up here and copy this. I'm going to grab this. This is what I want to do. Okay, so get rid of the semicolon and just put a regular colon. So what do I want to do if it's false? Well, I'm just going to grab this guy, okay? And you can put the semicolon at the end of this one because you're done, right? So basically it won't give you an error there. So let's pop this open, clear this and run this. And now we get the same thing 3 times, right? So John can vote 3 times. It's just a quicker way to do things and it's very useful in some situations. And let's come up here and let's go to 14 now. Okay, so now we should get John can't vote 3 times. So let's run this. We get John can't vote 3 times. Okay, so let's start with a fresh example. So as another example, let's do something like const. We'll do first name again, and I'll set this equal to Sarah. And let's do const. I'm going to do is senior. So basically a true or false value based on whether the person is a senior citizen or not. And what we're going to do here is set the price of admission to, let's say like a park or, I don't know, it could be a fair, whatever it is. Let's go ahead and say something like let price. And I'm going to declare this outside of the if statement, and I'll explain why in a second. So let's say if, and I'm going to reference this is senior variable. So basically, if the person is a senior, so if this is true, what do I want to do? Well, I want to assign a value of 5 for $5 to this variable price, okay? And then I'm going to do else. I'm going to do price equals 10. So it's $5 for a senior, $10 for everybody else. Now, I declared this variable outside of this because we haven't gotten to this yet, but basically you have something called scope when you deal with variables. And if I declared a variable inside of here, like let price here, if I go to console.log this outside, I'm going to have an issue. Okay. So I'm going to talk about this later on. For right now, we just need to declare this outside of the if block and outside of the else block. Okay. So we can use it everywhere. All right. So if I console.log a little message, let's say I console.log something like, and I'll use my backticks here, and I'll say first name, comma, the price to enter is, and I'm going to put $2 here because one is just to reference the $sign, okay, the actual $sign saying it's this many dollars, and the other one is to insert a variable here, okay. So then I'm going to put the price variable in, and then let's put a period, and I'm going to put a little emoji in here for an amusement park, and I put an ambulance, so let's do amusement park. Sorry, I need to pull that back up. Amusement park, so that one. And let's go ahead and pop open the terminal and clear this, and we'll run this. We get Sarah, the price to enter is $5. Okay, so as expected, we come up here, that's because isSenior is true. If you flip this to false, and we clear this and run this, we get Sarah, the price to enter is $10. Okay, so that's as expected. So now how could we do this with that conditional operator? What I'm going to do is just comment all this out. Remember, you can hold down Control and then / okay? And I'm just gonna start with something down here that's fresh. So the same idea, I want to assign a value of 5 if the person's a senior, okay? And I want to assign a value of 10 otherwise. So I'm going to go const now. Again, this is a scope thing, so I'll talk about this later. So now I'm going to use const, and I'm going to say the price, const price is equal to, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type the isSenior variable, and then a question mark. So what I'm asking here is this guy true? Okay. If it is, then what do I want to do? Well, I want to assign a value of 5, okay, to this variable right here. Otherwise, what do I want to do? I want to assign a value of 10 to this variable right here. Okay. So basically, because the assignment operator has the lowest priority here, it's going to think about this operation first, okay? And it's going to get a value from this. So basically, the isSenior, if that's true, then this guy's going to be 5. The isSenior, if that's false, it skips this, and this guy is going to be 10, okay? So that value, whatever's produced there, is going to get assigned as the last step to this variable price, okay? So you see if you pop this back open, and you clear this and you run this, you get Sarah, the price to enter is $10, okay, as expected. If you flip this back to true, okay, well now this is true right here, so this is going to be assigned. So we pop this back open and we run this, we get Sarah, the price to enter is $5. Now, you can also chain things together, okay, so let me comment this out now. It's gonna go back and forth between what we know and basically what we don't know. So let's uncomment this. And let's uncomment this as a block. So Control / okay. So now I'm going to introduce another variable. I'm going to say something like const is student, okay. So basically in this particular case, you can't be a student and a senior. In real life, you could be, but in this particular case, it's one or the other. So let's go ahead and set this to false for right now, okay. And let's put an else if in here. We'll say is student. We'll type that in there. So basically if that's true, you're not going to pay the full price, but you'll pay more than if you were a senior. So you'll pay $7. And then lastly, we'll do the else to catch everyone else. So they're not a senior, they're not a student. The price will be $10. Okay. So now the person's a senior, right? So if we pop this open, clear this and run this, we get a $5 price. If we flip this to false, okay, and this to true, now we should see 7. So if we pop this open, clear this and run this, we get the price is 7, right? So Sarah, the price to enter is $7. And if we put them both to false, okay, meaning the person is not a senior and they're also not a student, we'll pop this open, clear this out and run this, we get Sarah, the price to enter is $10. Okay, so as expected. But how would we now do this? Let me just comment all this out. How would we do this using the conditional operator? Well, basically what you're going to do here is you're first going to ask this question. So is this guy true? If it is, you still want to assign the value of 5, okay? If it's not, you're going to ask another question. So you're basically going to put this right here. So you're going to put is student now, and then you're going to put, again, you're asking another question, so think about it that way. So what do you want to happen now? So if this ends up being false, this gets skipped, and now we're here, okay? So what do you want to happen if this is true? Well, I want to assign a value of 7, okay? And then if it's false, I finally want to assign a value of 10. So let's think about this step by step. If this is true, okay, then this guy is going to be assigned as the value for price. Nothing else is going to happen. If this guy is false, this gets skipped and we go here. Okay, so now we're asking if this is true. If it is, this gets assigned, okay, as the value for price, and everything else is done, right? It skips everything else. If it's not true, if it's false, then again, we're going to skip this and we're going to go here. So 10 is now going to be assigned as the value for price. So if we pop this open and we run this, we get the price to enter is $10 for Sarah. Again, if you start messing with this, let's say it's true here. Well, now we're going to get 5, right? So we're going to clear this and run this. We get Sarah, the price to enter is $5. And if you flip this back to false and you flip this to, let's say true, okay, then let's clear this and run this. Now we get Sarah, the price to enter is $7, okay? So just a quicker way to assign things. I mean, you can see that's all on one line. Nice, easy, and convenient to do. And definitely preferable to sitting here and writing out all this stuff. All right, for the last example, let me show you a few different ways you can kind of play around with this. I'm going to show multiple things, like how you can do more than one thing with the conditional operator. So let's do something like const first name again. And I'm going to just set this equal to James. I'm going to do const age. I'm going to set this equal to 65. So I'm going to assign the value to two different variables using the conditional operator. So I'm going to declare them both here on one line. So I'm going to go let is retired. Then I'm going to use a comma and I'm going to put is student. Okay. So this is another way you can do this. If you're just declaring variables, you can separate them with a comma. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to type age is greater than or equal to 65. If this is true, what I want to do is two things. I want to set is retired equal to true, and I want to set is student equal to false. So I'm going to group this in some parentheses, and I'm going to say is student, and I'm going to set this equal to false. And then I'm going to put a comma here to separate the two. I'm going to put is retired. I'm going to set this equal to true in this case, okay? So what I want to do next is think about what to do if this is not true. So basically if the person is 64 or younger. So here I'm going to ask another question. Is the age, I'm going to say, is it less than 23? Okay, so basically, well, I can do less than or equal to 22. How about that? So we'll do something like is student, and in this case, I'll set that to true, and I'll put a comma, and then is retired, I'm going to set that equal to false, okay? And then what do I want to do if this is not true? Basically, if the person is between 23 and 64, right, inclusive. Well, in this case, the person is not going to be a student and they're not going to be retired. So I'm going to set is student. I'm going to say that's equal to false. And then I'm going to put a comma and then is retired. I'm going to set that equal to false as well. So we're doing multiple things here. And it looks like I have a mistake. And let's see if I can figure out what's going on. Oh, I forgot my question mark here. So I need my question mark there. And that's what was the problem. So let's go through this step by step. So if the age is greater than or equal to 65, well, what's going to happen is this is going to get executed. So is student will be false, is retired will be true, okay? If it's not, if the person isn't 65 yet, then we're going to look at this one. So is the age less than or equal to 22? Well, if that's the case, is student is going to be true, is retired is going to be false, okay? And then lastly, if the person is again between 23 and 64, inclusive of those ages, then is student will be set to false, is retired will be set to false, okay? So this is kind of not something you would do in the real world, but I'm just showing you an example of how you can do things. So you're noticing that this is grouped inside of parentheses, okay? If I get rid of the parentheses here, it's gonna light up on me, okay? And give me a little error, okay? So you wanna group these multiple statements with parentheses. And then also you wanna separate them with a comma. So if you do this, you're gonna have a problem, okay? So separate them with a comma. So if I just console.log, the is student and the is retired variables, and I meant to do is student there, so is student, what I'm going to get for is retired is true, and for is student I'm going to get false, because right now this is set to 65. So if I run this, I get true and then false, okay, as expected. Let's make a little message to the console. I'm going to go console.log. And basically, I'm going to use some backticks here. And this is where I'm going to show you some things. So I'm going to go first name, okay? And then inside of here, I'm going to use this conditional operator again. So inside of these brackets, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask, is retired? So if this is true, I'm going to put a question mark here. I basically want to put is retired, okay? And I don't need the space here, so let's get rid of that. And you can put, let's say, an exclamation point, and put a little emoji in there. So let's do a beach, something like that, okay? And then let me change this to the color one. And then after that, I'm going to put my colon, okay? And then I'm going to ask if the isStudent is true. Okay, if it is, then what do I want to do? Well, now I'm going to put a string in here, and I'm just going to say is a student, okay? And I don't know what you would put for that. Maybe you would be annoyed. Let's just go ahead and put something like this, okay? And you can put an exclamation point there, whatever you want to do. And then I'm going to put one more colon in here, and basically I'll say is currently working, okay? And then you'd definitely be annoyed. So let's go ahead and pop this open, and let's do this one, something like that, okay? And let's change this to an exclamation point so we're consistent. So let's think about how this is going to work now. The current age is 65, so is retired is going to be true. Okay, so we know that. So we're going to get first name, which is in this case James, okay? Since this is true, this guy right here is going to say is retired. Everything else is going to get skipped. Okay, you don't have to worry about that. If this was false, it would then go to this guy right here and say, is this true? If it is, then you would get is a student, okay? Again, if it was false, it would get skipped and finally would land on this and would say is currently working, okay? So let's pop this open and run this guy. We get James is retired, okay, as expected. And if you come up here and play around with the age, you can do something like, let's say 44. So this person should be working. So let's clear this and run this. We get James is currently working. And lastly, let's see the example with a student. Let's say the person is 17. So pop this open, clear this, and run this. We get James is a student.